I got a dream that comes from the heart of a hard lake.
People throughout the heartland have a dream shared by 12,000 competitors and over 500,000 spectators. A dream that begins at the foot of skyscrapers and ends 26 grueling miles later. For some, the dream is to win. For most, the dream is to finish.
10 seconds.
Today, the best runners in the world are in Chicago.
4, 3,
and the rest of the world
1.
is watching.
I know all of my friends who are running are going to take full advantage of that. The luck of the draw here.
Well, we're known to be lucky in this city. We're lucky to have this back this year. 30 seconds away from the start of the race, the Daily Center now. 26.2. That's a long way to go between now and, what will it be, 11:15 or so?
Well, pretty close. Maybe, yeah, I guess it will be, because it's going to start at 5 or 6 after 9, so.
Okay, 10 seconds. Here we go.
I always love the overhead shots because you see thousands of people acting as one, moving, and any marathon, it's just incredible to see that.
The other thing that always strikes me during a marathon is the different stories. I mean, every single person out there has a story about why they started running, why they're running this race, the great training runs, the hard training runs that they've had, the people that they've met along the way. They're all different sizes and shapes and ages and occupations, and it's a wonderful coming together. These people know how to start slowly.
Quite a contrast between the folks who are back there in the pack waiting to start running and these guys who are out front.
I always love this. These are the guys that want to get on television. They won't be up near the front at the end.
It's actually good to have them there in a race like this because there is a little bit of a north wind. And when you get warmed up today, these guys go out and take the pressure off. You don't have to worry about leading because you've got these guys that want to lead for the first mile or two, and then you'll see them drop off on a side street at about 3 miles.
There's Don Janicki, who was last in 1987 on the World Championship team. He's wearing number 15, and I believe he's going to be one of the pace setters today.
He's taking it off. I think where you have a field that's so equal in talent, they're looking for a very good race, but they want to control the pace to a point where these guys have a chance to really run the second half. And by having a couple of pace setters go out there, take them out fast, but not so fast that it's going to destroy the field. Get them to halfway, get them going, running well, and then let them just scream home.
Well, we're up to mile 2 here, and you can see that things are already really spreading out. You've got, it looks like thousands of people back behind this opening pack.
It looks to me, we don't have the exact mile splits, but they're running a very good pace. Those are the two designated rabbits in this race. It always seems funny to call them a rabbit in a race this long. You tend to think of that in a mile race, but that's really what they are. They are there to set the pace for the men's race and to do a lot of the work in the first half. So everybody else is just settling in. They just want to relax, settle into the pace, take it easy. There are a few people up there for the glory of getting on television, but they'll drop back soon enough.
All right, well, as we watch the winners pass the 2-mile mark, let's send it over to Tim Weigel, who has been observing all this from the starting line at the Daily Plaza. Tim?
Thank you very much. Along with number 15, Don Janicki. So they're doing their job. They're doing it real well. All the pretenders are sort of out of the way, and the race is on. And they're running right down Michigan Avenue, the magnificent mile. Let's take a look at the course that these runners will be traversing. As you probably figured out, they began at the Daily Plaza dual start down Clark Street and then Dearborn Street. They took the turn as they reached up to Clark and North Avenue, and then they turned down Michigan Avenue, down Lakeshore Drive eventually. They're going to take a cut over west around Comiskey Park at 35th Street, through Chinatown, then over on the west side through Little Italy, then bending back up along Halsted Street and then Wells, maybe 17 miles at that point, and then on up, as you see, all the way up toward Montrose, and then they'll bend back down Lakeshore Drive and finish over here on Cannon, 26.2 miles. And Tony, this is a little unusual for world-class courses in that it bends around a lot, goes through the neighborhoods trying to duplicate New York. But New York and Boston, the two big names in American marathons, are a straight shot, 26.2 miles point to point, correct?
Greg Meyer could talk about it because he's won Boston back in '83, but it's a point-to-point course. New York is point-to-point as well. It's got a few turns in it, but not nearly as many as Chicago. But Chicago, on the other hand, is much faster because of the dead flat nature of it. Boston and New York both have hills and undulations, and because of that, it's a little bit more difficult course. Here in Chicago, it's the third fastest course on average of top 10 times. It's the third fastest course in the world, and I think if you took the top 10 times of the men finishing in this race over the history, they've run 2 hours, 8 minutes, and 50 seconds on average for the top 10 guys. That's how fast it is.
Nancy and Greg just said they'd rather be out here where the excitement is.
They say that. That's.
They can say that now at 9:15 or 9:20 in the morning. Wait till it gets a few hours into this stuff. But it really is a pretty pleasant day. And that's Manny Matias, number 26, who's also up there among the leaders as they're down around Michigan Avenue, heading for Jackson Street. And as this race continues, so will our coverage. We'll take a short time out and be back just after this. Of who's who in the business.
If we go back to 1975 at the Boston Marathon, one of the biggest names the sport's ever created, Bill Rogers, was not even known as Bill Rogers back then. He was known as Will Rogers, which he never called himself. His parents never called him. But the press liked it, so they used Will Rogers. Well, his personal best coming into Boston 75 was 2:19, and he ran a 2:09. And all of a sudden now here's the guy that's Bill Rogers, who has become the king of the roads over the running boom period. Well, of course, in 1984 here in Chicago, who ever heard of Steve Jones? Steve Jones is now one of the most celebrated athletes in the sport. World record holder here at the Chicago Marathon, now the third fastest marathoner in history. Yeah, they keep coming up. They keep coming up, and there's no telling who will emerge from this pack. Now, I don't think we got somebody who's going to emerge into a super 2:07, 2:08 type of marathon, although we could easily be proven wrong. But somebody's going to run 2:09 today. That's the feeling I got. Somebody's going to run 2:09, which is probably somebody's going to run a personal best. A lot of people are going to probably run personal best times in this race. That's why they're here. And with the sort of visibility that the marathon in Chicago gets internationally, that name will then jump right up on that skyline to somebody who will be able to command big appearance fees in their next marathons.
Well, that's just, you're talking about appearance fees. That's just another indication of how far this sport has come. There's a lot of prize money at stake here. The winning runner could tote home $2.
Is from Mexico, and he's been running strong ever since he got out of the gate.
Ever since he got out of bed, I believe is when he started running strong. He along with most of the Mexicans, they train as a national team. They have a Polish national coach, as he has seemed to have made slightly a break at 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 40 seconds into it, and that's interesting. He's, again, in his early 20s. He ran 2:13 at the Los Angeles Marathon in his first serious marathon. He was in 7th place, but said, I really wasn't in very good shape whatsoever. So I think I can run much better in Chicago than I did there. He's what's referred to as he loves to race. I mean, this guy races constantly, and he'll run a 15-kilometer race one day, a half marathon the next day. He just loves to go race. Most of the Mexicans train at a place at about 10,000 feet altitude it's the Forest of the Lions, Desiertos de Leones. And it's at 10,000 feet altitude, so coming down to sea level at Chicago, they just going to feel like there's more oxygen in the air. They can deliver more oxygen-rich blood to their working muscle groups, and he's looking great.
He just looked like he turned on North Avenue there. He'll be heading west now over toward Larrabee as he's crossed the 18-mile mark.
And the battle has been joined. And this guy says, I'm going to try to take this to the wire. The thing is, he's young. and this is a long way out. Greg, this is a long way out for somebody to be making a break, don't you think?
It really is. What is this, about 15 miles?
Well,
15,
no, they're
16
17.
miles?
17 miles, 17 and a half.
Going up on
It
the
really
18
is.
mile. He just crossed the 18-mile mark, I believe.
The one thing you do know about this is him making a move like that is eliminating some people from the race. You saw Kerp, and I don't know who the other person is, fall off the back of the pack. I think the 3 guys that he has to watch are right behind him again because they're still stalking as a group. The other 2 are going the other way.
That's his Jesus Valdez, who's his countryman. That's also Tolstikov and Richard Kitang.
And Binns is off it too. Plus, you have to remember, these guys have been running fast, faster than they ever have before. It could be just let this guy go. He's not going to make it. Binns is smart. These other guys have been in races before. They might be saying to themselves, it's too soon. We don't need to do this now. We've been running fast enough.
But he really thinks this is a 10K race from this point on. It looks like a 10K sort of race pace, doesn't it?
It sure does. He's working hard, but he looks good. You know, everything looks. It's too early to tell. Give him 5 more minutes to see if he holds up this kind of surge. If he doesn't, then I think somebody has a chance to reel him in. But for my money, it seems like he's gone a little bit too early.
Well, that's the impetuousness of youth, isn't it?
Well, the other thing is you always want to, when you make a move in a marathon, you want it to be decisive without being overly aggressive this early on. This is taking a lot of energy to make a move this aggressive. And when he gets to 23, 24 miles, we saw it in the Olympic marathon, we thought that it had been broken wide open, and sure enough, it didn't quite work out that way for Ahmed Saleh because he did the same sort of thing. He got very, very aggressive, put a good surge on, thought he was dropping them, and wham, everything came down around him.
You know what he also did?
Fast. And I think he's trying to prove that right here. So I think he has the confidence. I just hope he knows what he's doing this early in the race.
It was a 4:52 18th mile, as a matter of fact. And before that, it was a 4:56. So at this stage of the race going north, they're going to hit the wind in their face. So it's not the same as the early mile 4:52s. This is a wind in your face 4:56, 4:52. And that has broken this race open. We have more on this 5'9", 125-pound, 20-year-old out of Mexico City. As I said, 2:13.14 in 88 at Los Angeles, 7th place. He's run other marathons in Mexico, but the courses aren't as accurately measured. It's just, he is, of course, Rich Castro, our friend who handles the Mexican runner, says, well, he's got a problem with pace and he goes out too hard. He had 6 countrymen to run with in a pack in Los Angeles. Here, he doesn't have that many people around him to hold him back. And the early pace is what Rich, I think, was referring to, but we might see this impetuousness in pace, not at the beginning, but at the 30-kilometer mark and on. And now the question is, can he take this to the wire? And history of this event, not just the Chicago Marathon, but the history of marathoning tells you that that strong a move, you pay a penalty for later on.
Greg, you were saying this is an American flaw primarily. I mean, weren't you saying that the American runners are the impatient ones?
Well, early to go, those last miles just seem like they take forever. And you saw one quick look back over his shoulder already. It's possible he has the fitness to overcome this sort of impetuous little move that he's, not a little move, major move that he's made. But it's a gamble. But it's what makes it interesting. It makes it fun to watch.
Yeah, that's why they have races and they don't give things out to the, they don't give prizes and trophies out before the race. They make people actually go out there and earn that stuff. Again, Tim, you're bringing up the question of the wall at 22 miles or 20 to 22 miles. Athletes only have so much glycogen as their primary fuel source stored in their body. Usually it comes out as 1 hour and 50 minutes, 50, 1 hour, 50 minutes of glycogen in most people's bodies. So the marathon, even for the top people, are going to take over 2 hours. So you
That's
have
14
to start
minutes away.
You have to start developing the ability to transfer over from primary fuel to less high-octane fuel, and that the people that do that well are the people that do their long runs every Sunday.
Well, he's still on Larrabee around the 19-mile mark. And
stroking right along.
Yes, he's eventually going to jog over on Fullerton, and then he'll be heading up Racine, and then he's going flush into the wind for at least 2.5 miles before he's able to turn east and then head for home.
Let me just tell you that it's Richard Kitang, Jesus Valdez from Mexico, and Yakov Tolstikov prowling in the distance, not out of this by any means.
Absolutely not. We're not out of it either. We've got lots of race coverage still to come. We're going to take a brief timeout and then be right back.
209.44.8, but in marathon you always round up, so they both officially got 209.45s, one of the closest finishes in history.
Well, and here is our leader today.
This is it's great to see somebody new come to the fore and win a major race. The man's going to make $50,000 because he certainly didn't get an appearance fee to come here. Alejandro Cruz was a nobody coming into this. He was a good, solid 7th place finish and a 2:13 personal best. Certainly doesn't have to pay for his entry fee, but other than that, he was just another one of the Mexican contingent of 5 or 6 or 8 men, actually, who came into Chicago. Now at 20 years of age, he's going to run a sub, whatever he's going to run. He's certainly going to run a sub 210, possibly a 2:08, 2:09. The course record is going to be well stood. It's the 4th fastest time in history. It's 2:07.13, set back in 1985 by Steve Jones in that remarkable solo effort that he did here in Chicago.
There's no way he'll catch that. If he had, he'd win an extra $50,000. But I mean, it's still, this is exactly what we'd hope for, Tony, that somebody would emerge like this.
Again, the history.
Alejandro Cruz has done that.
Tony,
yes, Nancy.
Tony, Bob Wright's son, Tabor, picked me up at the airport, and he said, well, I'm glad there's just one of you, because when I came earlier to pick up the 6 members of the Mexican contingent that were coming in, there were 14 of them. And he had to arrange all sorts of extra transportation because they weren't expecting as many runners to come in from Mexico City.
Well, Mexicans usually come when they're ready to run. It's a lot like the Soviet contingent. Some countries, like the Americans, we send a lot of athletes to the games, but the East Germans and the Soviets and people have a tendency to send who they think is ready to run well. There were only a couple of men distance runners from the Mexican team on the Mexican team at the Seoul Olympics. There weren't 3 men at the 5,000 meters and 3 different men at the 10,000 meters. They had 2 guys, Arturo Barrios and Mauricio Gonzalez, running both the 5 and 10,000 meters. No tourists, just athletes. He's tired now, but he doesn't have very far to go, and now he's going to try to break 2:09.
Now he is definitely struggling, but
God bless him.
Big surprise there, right? And he's at the end of a 26.2-mile run.
He's working hard, though. I mean, he wants every second out of this baby he can possibly take. You never know when your PR is going to come, do you, Greg?
No, you really don't. And it comes on a day where it's competitive, where the whole field is fast. And I think you found that today. You have one guy coming in probably up by 20 seconds, but still, it was a group effort early on. These guys were running fast and competing. And I think that's the kind of race that was set up here, to bring a bunch of guys in of equal ability. One guy is going to emerge the winner, but it's going to set up a fast race.
Tim, this is also a very proud moment for Chicago's Mexican community watching this fella come in. It's got to be.
All right, now we're looking at Tolstakov trying to catch him here. And there's no way he's going to do it. You notice Cruz egging on the crowd a little bit.
What? Egging on the crowd?
Well, no, he was going like this.
Sort of
or else he had a fly in his hand.
Tolstakov was looking really good, too. But I'll tell you, this young man, 20 years old, is now just 100 meters away from the tape. The clock is unofficial. He's got a good chance to break 2 hours and 9 minutes. He's got 50 meters left to go.
And here
20 years old from Mexico City. Alejandro Cruz wins the old-style marathon in 2:08.56 unofficially. A 5-minute personal best.
And here comes Tolstakov, the Soviet, who will finish second.
His personal best coming in 2 hours, 10 minutes, and 48 seconds.
And he will better that.
Yakov Tolstakov, he's from Siberia. He's used to the cold weather. He hits the line in 2:09.20 unofficially. And here comes Richard Kitang from Ames, Iowa, out of Kenya, with his new son in hand, September 24th. 3rd place at the Old Style Marathon, 2:09.39.